Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. Well, I've done a little bit more fiddling. I mentioned in the previous video that in some of the photos I've seen, the dome had been created with the benefit, I still think it is a benefit, of having these struts, as shown by the cursor, the same length. Makes sense. Lesser number of greatly different strut lengths would make for a better dome structure. So I modelled off of the original, well, these ones in the background are the original models, as we saw in this exercise here, because these ones, this particular photo that I generated the grid off, the lines here, had these strut lengths being pretty close to being equal length. So thinking this is a jolly good idea, I forced the situation where what I think was reasonable, and I achieved the strut lengths of the same length. Now that had me initially quite happy, and I thought, oh, yeah, there we go. Step forward again. I like having forward some progress towards the end goal, whatever that is. And it was for me, quite tricky on how you generate this point at which the leg is created. But I came up with a method. And again, as I said, thought, well, we're on to a bit of a winning move here. The whole point was to make that viable. When we have a different leg height, we would again change the position of this to make it that these struts are the same length. Right away, I should have clicked that creates a potential problem, unless we've got a very robust drawing system. At the moment, I'm going to say this is the original drawing approach is quite robust. It may or may not be correct, but it is robust because it allows us to change the leg independently from the rest of the dome. However, this modified version or approach requires these 1, 2, 3 faces to be modified because it changes this point of intersection every time you change the leg height or length. What does that do? Is that a plus or a minus? Well, it's a minus as far as I'm concerned. We come along here and I've made a shorter leg, which is my preferred style for what I want. And I thought, oh, that actually is quite good. It's actually the area of the roof, as I keep on referring it to, these 6 faces are more similar compared to here, because we can see that they are quite different in their sizings. And while the lengths here are better, this is different compared to our original approach. And then we come to this one, and again it'll be this area is different from here. It's actually, in fact, they're pretty close, but it's the fact that every time you adjust this leg height, because we don't know what that is going to be, because there's in my mind, no set measurement for this. This will change. the change itself isn't what's important. It's the ability to replicate it all the time, and the quite annoying need to change the structure that was up until then just fine as it was. And then when I looked at this, I thought, oh, the length, the distance between the intersection points of all 6 faces and back is quite different on some of them. You can actually see here as I zoomed in how different this actually looks when you start to look at it more square on. This one here looks a bit more pleasing, but then trying to force this one, this face here, to be a little bit longer and this one a little bit shorter, I thought, well, that'd be a good idea to help balance it all out. And I started getting that feeling again, oh, you're actually forcing something to achieve your end goals for the sheer hell of it, almost. And your goal would be to have a robust system, this one I'm circling, that can be used in many different situations. Any shortcomings of having a length here longer than, for the struts here, longer than this strut, while a valid concern, isn't really a problem. So I decided to try and shift this point so it's equidistant between these two lines here, these two struts. So I did that, and that again caused problems. How to achieve that, but while it starts to look a little bit more symmetrical, it doesn't really achieve the end result that I was wanting. It visually looks better. The strut lengths are the same here, so you're adjusting this point and this point. You might as well start from scratch again and determine what that is. I've got no idea, because every time this adjusts, this will adjust. So a method to achieve the drawing, to achieve those constantly moving points, it's hardly going to be a geometry based approach. Not in my thinking. You'd need something that would allow the ratio, the lines, the porcupine, to be created for each iteration of dome that you want to draw. And that to me is just not an acceptable option, at least at this stage. Okay, so what I'm saying is, yes, it may well be a good goal to have these strut lengths the same, but when you adjust the leg and you try and get them the same again, you're adjusting other parts of the dome. That seems to be a backward step, unless the approach to drawing it allows for that to occur. It would be good to get feedback on that, but because I'm doing these without actually having that facility at the moment, I'm basically flying blind, and that probably won't end well. So I'm going to put this on the back burner, this adjusting the strut lengths, put it on the back burner and allow my ruminating over how to proceed to go on also in the background. And but for the moment I'm going to be sticking with this, and any progress forward will be likely done on the type of approach for drawing of this one. Okay, so that was a semi-sideways backward step, but one that we had to go through to find out our thoughts and the practicality. And as I said, I'm fudging it, the method of drawing, and there may well be a correct way of doing it that allows me to do it and not have these perceived downsides. Okay, that's it. I'll see you again in another video. Bye.